Discipline over motivation has been the war cry of choice for fitness professionals on social media seeking to shame you into working with them for years. Today, I am here to tell you that in most cases, it's a bullshit platitude that does more harm than good. More often than not, the people shouting these sort of catch cries from the rooftops of their social media accounts are young fitness professionals who are childless and who live and breathe training. Unfortunately, I know this from personal experience because at one point in my life, that was me. For many years, I really struggled to empathise with people who let training fall by the wayside when life got hard. For me, for as long as I can remember, training's been my refuge, my way of letting the stress of life fade into the background while I focus on lifting heavy things. In my early 20s, when I worked a part-time job and was really into fitness, that made a lot of sense and it worked really well. Now, as an early 30s man with a partner, a child, and a business, and most importantly, a life outside of lifting, things look a little bit different. The reality of being a contributing member of society is that, for most of you, training very rarely takes out the number one priority spot. In most cases, training's the first thing to fall off the list of non-negotiables in any given week when life gets really hard. And with PTs across the world shouting at you from social media and purporting to be disciplined, it's really easy to see how some people who, when they fall off that training bandwagon, never really manage to get back on. I've now had some variation of this conversation with hundreds of people over the last 10 years. And in that time, I've come to a few key points that can really help you put things into perspective and ensure that this training journey that you're on is one that lasts a lifetime and continues to see success for many years to come. The first of these points is that 1 is always greater than 0. The session you do will always, no matter how small it is, be better than the session that you skip. Now, it's really easy in this circumstance as someone who owns a gym and is in a gym 6 days a week to be like, oh, you can just reschedule your week and fit it in. But the reality is that's just not how it works for most people. On the day where you're really dragging your ass getting out of work and the concept of getting under the bar leaves you shuddering, just drive to the gym. Put whatever music you really like to listen to on, forget about all your troubles, and maybe that drive is enough to turn things around and mean you can have a productive session. If you get to the gym driveway and you're still really not feeling it, go home. Some days it's just not there, and that's okay. If after making it through the driveway, you manage to get through the door, start warming up. It can be as simple as just sitting on a bike or something like that for a few minutes just to get your heart rate going. And if after that point you're still really not feeling it, go home. At least you did something. In most cases, you'll get through that first warm-up and be able to start with your first exercise of the day. Now, for some of you, that might be enough to feel like you've had a productive session. You can get that first exercise in and go home. In most cases, training programs are prioritized from that first movement down. So if you get that first exercise in, you've done the work that needed to be done and you've moved the needle forward. In a lot of cases, once you get through that first exercise, finishing the rest of the session will be less daunting. And even if you need to reduce the weight or maybe you drop some of that volume, that's okay too, because again, at least you've done something and you've moved the needle forward. 1 will always be greater than 0, and the session you skip will always mean less than the session you do. One of the other important factors in ensuring that you continue to make progress in your training life is to always be working towards something. Powerlifting for me as a coach has been one of the most useful tools for taking people who entered the gym environment without a really concrete idea of what they wanted to get out of it, because it's allowed me to give them something to work towards. I've been an athlete my whole life, and I know from a lifetime of training experience that I will always train harder and with more consistency when I'm working towards something. For many years, that something was a powerlifting competition. Now it looks a little bit different, but having an end date or having something to work towards will give you just that little bit of encouragement from the back of your head when you're really doubting your ability to turn up and do the work. Powerlifting is really good because it's incredibly accessible, and for a lot of people who haven't had an experience of competing in sport for many years, it provides a really great outlet for flexing those competitive muscles. It's certainly not for everyone, and it's not something that I encourage everyone to do, but it's a really useful tool for providing a goal to work towards. That goal doesn't have to be tangible like a competition date. It could be that you're going to your high school reunion and you want to show off your shirt sleeve busting arm gains. Or it could be that you've got a wedding coming up and you want to upstage the bride. That's fine too. Whatever it is, working towards something gives you that reason to turn up and do the work on even the days where you feel at your worst. Because the reality is, over a lifetime of training experience, you're probably going to have at least as many shitty days as you do really great days, and the vast majority of the days of training that you have in your life will be kind of They won't be amazing and they won't be shit. They'll just be there. So having a reason to avoid skipping the sessions that you don't want to do, be it a competition date or something else, can be a really powerful tool in ensuring consistency across a long time. The last, and I think probably most important point in this process, is to remember that it's totally okay to skip a session. You're not a professional athlete, you're not being paid to turn up to the gym, and sometimes life just has other plans. I own a gym, I'm in the gym at least 6 days a week, and I still skip sessions. I don't think that's something necessarily to be proud of, but it's the reality of life, is that sometimes shit hits the fan. And often that shit's going to get in the way of your ability to train hard. The important thing here is not how you respond to the shit hitting the fan, but how you respond to life after you've cleaned the shit off the walls. It's really easy in this scenario to fall off the bandwagon completely and to see that one missed session across a training week really makes the rest of them useless. But the reality is that one session across a week might seem like a lot, but a missed session across a 3-month training cycle probably doesn't make much of a difference. Missing a whole month of training might seem like a really significant thing in the scheme of a 3-month training cycle, but over a course of a year, 4 weeks off is probably not the end of the world. Having several months of limited or no training because you were locked in your house or some other injury pops up and prevents you from getting to the gym might seem like the end of your training career. But when you've been training for many years or decades, those few months where you weren't able to get into the gym will seem like just a little blip on the radar when you get back on the wagon and you put one foot in front of the other in order to keep moving forward. That's the most important part of this. Skip a session, don't make it to the gym, train haphazardly, all of those things are okay and a normal part of the training process. The important part is that you get back on the wagon and you continue moving forward regardless of what's happened in the past. One step at a time, just keep going.